Hello and welcome to A Celtic World, the YouTube channel and podcast made by Celtic fans all over the world, for Celtic fans all over the world. From Ianacho to Inverurie, to Necti to Twat, wherever you happen to be watching from. You're part of A Celtic World. And who do we have with us here today? Well, let's say hello to Tam first, who we haven't seen for a while. Tam, Dumbarton Tam in Seoul CSE. How's it going?
Oh, good man. How are you?
Absolutely tickety-boo. And Paul in Perth is joining us, as ever, on a Thursday.
I am. Well, no, I was missing last week. Wasn't I? I had a work thing that got in the way. But yeah, nice to be back on. And yeah, people are saying you're a bit loud, Gav. So I'll be honest, I turned you down in my ears too.
Ah, dear, oh dear. What shall I turn down? It's impossible to get this right. The exciting news is I've ordered... I'm up to 100%. Don't know how that happened. That should be better. Is that better, everyone? Please let us know. Terribly sorry for coming in your ears there violently. So my humble apologies. But yeah, I always like to ask people about the respective volumes because we've no way of knowing. So it's only the people back home can help us out. And hello to all the people back home. See lots of people in the chat now. Now too low. Are you joking? Are you joking? Dear, oh dear. Okay. I'm going to carry on at this volume unless you tell me otherwise. Still a bit low.
No, it's probably
Oh,
delayed.
for
I think you'll be okay. I think let's just crack on.
Let's crack on indeed. All right. This is what we're talking about. A fan meeting, obviously. Big thing that happened last night for everyone. Middle of the night for us. Yesterday evening for people back in Greenwich Mean Time, Celtic Park time. Seems to be fine now. Okay, good. Sorry about that. Second, what's going to be the first visible sign is the big question of this fan action. Then we'll move on to the curious case of Dermot Desmond. And of course, finally, this is supposed to be a preview show, so we're going to preview the game at the weekend against Kilmarnock. If we don't just blether on for ages about all this fan action stuff. Okay, how does that sound, Paul? Does that excite you?
Well, does it? I don't know. I'm looking forward to getting back to some football, I'll be honest. But yeah, it's obviously the biggest story in the club at the minute, so we will treat it accordingly.
Well, perhaps before we do, you can educate Dumbarton Tam as to the whereabouts of the aforementioned twat.
So twat is spelt with three T's. But two T's at the end, and it is in the far northern reaches of Scotland. I believe it's up near John O'Groats. I think I have not been to that particular twat myself, but I'm led to believe that that's where you can find it.
Oops. Well, I'm just going to share
The maps.
my screen here for a second and show you this. This is Orkney. And there's Twat.
Right.
And up here is... And Shetland also has a twat, so there's a pair of twats in northern Scotland.
Well, I've been to Shetland. I didn't know there was a twat in Shetland. So I've never been to Orkney. So forgive me for thinking it was on the mainland and not just over the water. But yeah, I've been to Shetland on a school footy trip, actually. We were lucky enough to fly up from Aberdeen, and some other year groups ended up being stuck on a ferry up there, which I think it'd be a bit less fun. But we cadged a lift with some oil and gas workers, I think, and yeah, shot up there for a week's footy tour in my younger years. So no, but I didn't get to see twat in Shetland. not for the one to try it as some teenage schoolboys, I'll be honest.
There must be somewhere in twat in Western Australia, wasn't it? Like kind of. There's a lot of locations named after one in the Scotland. Like there's even Yass in New South Wales. So must be some men in Western Australia must be a twat as well.
No twats here that I'm aware
There's
of.
at least one twat in Western Australia. But anyway, let's move on from this silliness, shall we? Here is the thumbnail for today's show, which asks, can players focus while fans organise? I guess that's the big question. We've got a game coming up. We're all looking forward to it, Paul, as you say. And there's a couple of nervous-looking men in suits with a bunch of our new players in front of them and all the question marks over them. So quite literally, these new players are making their debuts or second games against a backdrop of unrest. So nicely reflected in the thumbnail. I give myself a little pat on the back for that. Oh, we have a new contributor. Hello.
Hello, my son, Sean.
I'm listening to
What's he saying?
He's asking, are they your friends? I said yes.
We're all friends here. How's it going? Welcome to the team.
Yep. Hello. You can say hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Nice to see you, but we have to move the chat on,
Yep.
Tam. So let's move let's move it on. This is from the Celtic Star. I hear that the Celtic supporters meeting last night was lively and provided a roadmap for the fans to unite. And there was a real determination in the air to force change at the club. The first tangible sign of that will probably be seen on television screens this weekend. Well, we'll get to the first visible sign in due course. But Paul, yeah, the meeting was yesterday, very well attended. And, you know, I think it's fair to say that there's a tremendous sort of unity of the fan base at the moment with a few dissenting voices. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, well, it's great to see the level of unity there is, and I will get into I'm sure we'll touch on some of the results that have been leaked shortly. But yeah, it does seem I think it's not. Let's go back a step. It's not really a huge surprise that there's unity in the support, given where we found ourselves. We're sitting on a bucket of cash we all know about. We have refused to spend that again. We've failed to back the manager. We've failed to replace players that have been gone for a number of months. And we've crashed out of Europe out of Champions League ridiculously early and underprepared once again to weaker opposition. And then to put the tin lid on it, they didn't deliver even after the window, and then reproduced a ludicrous statement trying to blame all and sundry but themselves. So it's not a huge I'd be more worried if the support wasn't united in the current situation. I think where we've got to try and push this and hope that we can continue is keep this unity, because I can't remember a time when the Celtic support was as united as this since it's not me. Since we got rid of the old family board and Fergus kind of got swept to power under the rebel movement in '94. So it's been a long time. That's nearly 30 years since we've had this level of cohesiveness in the support, and we've obviously had largely successful last 20-25 years, but we could be doing more. People on the outside will say we're being spoiled and all the rest of it, and we're throwing our toys at the pram at the first negative sort of bits and pieces. But I think clearly we can all, and I know there's detail on this to come, but we can all see that Celtic can be more than it currently is living up to. We're underachieving for the size of the club and the production that's coming through in terms of the finances, and we're not prepared to just be the best team in Scotland and a smidge ahead in Scotland. We want to see us compete on the European stage, and with that in mind, we're massively underachieving. And so yeah, I think it's great we've got that level of cohesiveness. We need to kind of push that on and strike while the iron's hot and try and keep that level of unity. But yeah, from everything coming out of the meeting last night, it sounds like there was the right level of passion in the room and also the right level of kind of unity and kind of people being on the same page, which, as I say, hasn't always been the case in the Celtic support.
Tam, are you aware of the results of the meeting?
Not really, but the thing is, I can easily expect it because, like, it's kind of, to be honest, I feel like almost mocked with the kind of how the board treated us, like the Celtic fans. Because it wouldn't be surprised, like, if they say they're going to boycott the next match. So it's something like I see the treatment we've been seeing years and years, like previously, especially after Rangers is gone, like back in 2012, like the board's been like acting some time to time like a twat. So I think it wouldn't be like kind of same this time. So it's disappointing, more than that. We've been seeing this more than years. So we know what comes at the end. I mean, at the end of this story. So that makes all of us anxious, I think.
Yeah, I mean, well, we are anxious. It's an anxious time, and this is obviously a very good point by William O'Toole here. It'll be interesting to see where all of that supporter unity goes. The balance of backing the team on the pitch and letting the board know how we feel is a difficult thing. And there are plenty of people urging caution. People shouting for boycotts and stop buying merchant tickets. Could risk losing sponsors, cost people their jobs. Okay, those voices are out there. But let's turn to the meeting itself. Now, I think there was a general call after Brian attended the meeting on our behalf for Celtic World, sort of not to publish the details, but they seem to be all over the place on social media and stuff. The results of the survey. So, I mean, I see them on Twitter and Facebook, and in fact, they're here on the Celtic Star. So we often show websites and social media pages, so we're just going to do that as we normally do. This is the Celtic Star talking about the fan survey. Over 38,000, nearly 39,000 responses. Now, potential objective. Let's go through some of these. Do you endorse a vote of no confidence in the Celtic board? Yes, 99.4%. So, can't get much higher than that. Would you endorse a call for the removal of Nicholson, Mackay and Lawwell? Well, 98.5 and upwards for all of those. All of these results are obviously very, very high. Would you endorse a call to implement a fan advisory board at Celtic FC? 99.5. Would you endorse the idea of a democratic Celtic fan body? 99.5. So even though these are very high numbers, let's just stop there. Even though these are all very high numbers, Paul, I think you can see where the most agreement comes in these things already, and we'll see that a bit further down. Have you got anything to say on those questions so far about potential objectives? You're on mute. You've Nicholsoned yourself.
I don't know how that's happened. Yeah, my comms is even worse than the Celtic board. Yeah, it's not really a surprise to me. Ultimately, the board's got to carry the can. And those three are sort of the highest profile. So it's, yeah, like obviously the survey's only, I think that it's been noted that the survey was relatively brief, and obviously couldn't drill down at this point into the makeup of the responders. So whether they're season ticket holders, whether they're on the away ticket position, etc., etc. But as a starting point, I think this does its job. It tells you've got it's pretty much that every responder is on board in an agreement. It doesn't get you wouldn't get much heavier than this across any questions. So yeah, not a huge surprise in terms of the questions that have been, the open letter is what started this, which, a good chunk of CSCs across the world and a big chunk of fan media, I think 56 fan media in the end, including ourselves, were on there. And this is obviously the next step. So yeah, the North Curve did a good job getting this out and getting out quickly. I think the meeting is then obviously the next step, and action to come from that meeting, to follow through and start some sort of action and protest is obviously the next step. But to see that level of, so I think it was nearly 39,000 respondees in 3 days, something like that. So yeah, pretty strong response, and pretty much only one lean-in as well. So yeah, as I say, I think it gives those organising on behalf of the support a mandate to take the next steps.
And as for those next steps, let's look at those potential actions. Would you endorse a call to withdraw from the home ticket cup scheme? Yes, 93.9%. Would you endorse a call to boycott the Europa League? 92.2%, which is pretty low in comparison, relative terms. Would you endorse a call to boycott all Celtic products except tickets? 97.5%, which is the highest of all these potential actions. Would you endorse and participate in a silent protest? 95.5%. Would you endorse and participate in a late entry protest? 93.7%. Would you endorse and participate in an early exit protest? 91.4%. So, any response to those, Tam? What do you think of those potential actions?
I think it's pretty, fair enough, because with this very dreadful the transfer window, I mean, you don't need even to try to organize it or endorse it, because you're going to see back to the page. There's a kind of a late entry, and even to a kind of early exit, kind of things that are going to happen if you kind of have a weakened the squad like this in the Europa League. The league, we're not really hopeful for kind of any kind of great performances. So I think it's at the end of the day, you're going to just we'll be doing it anyway. So with the current the transfer window and how the board treat us, eventually led us to those actions.
A lot of people in the comments saying they don't want the idea of walking out to be part of the fan protests. We'll get to the bigger issues in a second, but I see the Daily Record, our favourite newspaper. Furious Celtic supporters groups are planning a protest with a call to arms for fellow fans to forego the first 10 minutes of their clash away to Kilmarnock. If their reporting is right, then that's going to be the first thing we see, Paul.
Well, yeah, that seems to be mentioned from multiple sources. So yeah, not a walkout, but I guess a late appearance. I'm a bit torn, because I've always been back the team sack the board. That was the messaging way back in the 90s, and really that's probably the ethos of every fan. But I guess how do you do that? I certainly think I agree with this. I don't think you walk out with 10 minutes to go. If you're not going to appear for part of the match, then the first 10 minutes is the place to do it. I get this point from Pete McGee, protesting that way against Pistons in the win, complete waste of time. Well, it is, but luckily for I don't think it is necessarily. It will get coverage, and the board will take notice. Luckily for the board, there isn't a home game, I think, until the last weekend of the month, so they've got some breathing space at home until then. So you can't just let this dissipate. You've got to do some sort of action in the interim if you're going to do something. You can't just go, we'll wait to the 27th. So yeah, I'm not hugely keen on damaging the sort of support to the team when we're already sort of in a bit of disarray. But equally, we've got to do something. So the boycotting of Europa League, I feel like, whilst it's a pretty strong result of over 90%, I think, yes, it hits the club in the pocket, but do you really want to leave the team sort of high and dry in that competition? I'd argue you don't. And even if you don't take up your tickets, I would imagine there'll be enough other Celtic fans who don't get to see the team at any regular basis that will probably step in and buy those tickets. So it might might not have the effect. In fact, if that happens, it'll actually be better for the board because they'll sell those tickets to a higher price than they would to season ticket holders, would be my guess. So the general admission would probably be priced higher. So yeah, I think we've got to do something. I saw there's some stuff about staying back after games and continuing to protest until effectively kicked out of the stadium. That kind of stuff definitely needs to happen outside the front of the ground. I'm not advocating for violence against individuals, but certainly showing the way to protest as these guys leave and enter the building. As I say, without that can be verbal without it being needing to go any further than that. But yeah, we've got to sort of push forward on this sentiment and try and get through to the custodians, because at the minute they're just sort of two fingers in the ears and sort of la in it. So yeah, we need to be trying to do something. See some comments in there about why we're not doing some concerted organized shares. I think that's definitely something to follow. But there's been a push, the whole drive for 5% of shareholdings to come together and act as one under the Celtic Trust banner we've spoken about this multiple times down the last couple of years that we've been on air, and it seems to have stalled at every point. Now, I don't know if that's just there's not the cut through, or the leadership from the Celtic Trust is not able to pull people together in the same regard as it would need to. But I think that's a long-term plan in terms of shareholding. But I think now there's just a kind of disgust and anger that needs to be channeled to try and force some sort of managerial change or leadership-based change and structural change inside the club.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you've got to start somewhere, and I'm sure there will be a series of increasingly meaningful steps. And obviously, Tam, like a handful of away fans coming in late into a game isn't going to move the needle, but it's the thing that they can do immediately in the next game. It's about all they can do, really. So I think you understand why that might be happening. But what might be the second step? The Europa League thing. Like, Tam, we're all remote fans, but if you were like a fan living in Scotland, would you be happy enough to forego the Europa League in protest?
Yeah, I mean, I've been, previously I just talking about like all the actions mentioned to be endorsed makes sense, but the comments, actually I've been reading them while I was hearing what Paul said. Actually, they're making senses, and I try to understand what has been happened before when I get to a lot of different football venues previously. And what I think is, foregoing Europa League and any games will be, wouldn't, as long as they deliver the right message in the right time and the right way, it'll be fine. So I think it's, I buy more ideas from those comments, like as long as you just try to involve with the matches and still try to deliver the message in some way, like brilliant ideas previously, Celtic fans are really good at. Like the one when the Queen passed away, we tried to make it fun in the St. Mirren game. So something like try to let everybody involved in and deliver the message, and it could be covered by the media in very positive way. Then I think that will push the Celtic board eventually, and there's no room behind for letting them to accuse the fan of. So I think we need to try to be clever. To be honest, I don't know how to, but I'm pretty sure the guys in the North Curve and the Green Brigade, they're pretty good at it. So I'm looking forward to it. But the thing is, I really wanted to something happen to the minds of the people like the Nicholson. So we should see some development in the next transfer window at least. And beforehand, I really wish them to show some empathy to the fans and say some, words to us in the right way, not like the statement they made before. So, as you said, the foregoing Europa League matches will be one of ideas, but the thing is, will be, there must be some better ideas.
Mm-hmm. Here's a quick message from Finland. Just found your podcast, guys. Loving it. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you very much. It's good to have you here, Klim. As you might know, we've just passed the 2,000 subscriber mark over the past short while, so that's very exciting. So if you haven't already, you know what to do. Yeah, now we'll get on to the subject of, the shares and that people are talking about. Some great comments coming through, but I can't really put them up when we're talking about sort of simpler matters. Yeah, so there's the Europa League. There's late entry, early exit, staying behind, protesting. It's all about sending a message, isn't it, to Dermot Desmond that the fans have had enough now. To what extent the message can ever get through to him to see meaningful change at boardroom level, who knows? But something that Brown Warrior's going on about is sort of combining this boycott of purchasing Celtic products other than tickets with people contributing to a fund to buy more shares. Because the shares are publicly tradable, and obviously that's a long-term project, but there has to be immediate, medium-term and long-term actions, Paul, in this whole thing. Just because that's a long-term and difficult thing to achieve, is that something that should be ignored, or should that be part of the bundle of actions arising from this, do you think?
Well, yeah, I think it should be on the table, but as we've sort of touched on, that the drive for the 5% of, there's tons of Celtic supporters that have got a few shares that, they bought a few shares because they had the opportunity to do so when Fergus McCann made it available. But even just trying to consolidate all the Celtic fans that have got those into basically giving the Celtic Trust basically their vote to do it in a block, it's not really had any traction. So if we can't get traction on something as relatively straightforward as that, I think buying up shares is gonna take time, effort. I think realistically you're looking for a wealthy Celtic, another wealthy Celtic fan or group of wealthy Celtic fans to try and buy up a group of shares over time, that starts to pull a block together that has a bigger say than a few individual fans that cobble together 5%. So yeah, long-winded answer. We should be trying to do that at the same time, but that's to the point earlier made in one of the comments. That's a long-term strategy, so you can't just rely on that. That can be playing out in the background, but we need to sort of grab the nettle on this sort of weight of feeling and anger and support at the same time, and try and push forward at this point. I still think it's going to be tough. Clearly there's, like I said, there's more consistency and unity than I've seen in a long time. But how long is that unity going to stick together? And how much pressure is Dermot Desmond willing to soak up? He's hardly ever at games. Do you know what I mean? He's on the golf course, he's in his helicopter, he's in one of his many homes. Is it really going to bother him that much? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. It's the guys that the directors that are in the director's box every week that are going to feel the heat more than Dermot Desmond, I would suggest. And ultimately, he kind of does what he wants. I saw one of the comments earlier on, for a guy who owns 35% of the club, he's got 100% control pretty much, as far as we can gather, which there's no way that should really be the case. But it sounds like it is. It sounds like the board are basically his puppets. Any major decision has to be run past him. So it's a bit of a farce, really. So I think what you want is a board who is there to do its actual job and not just pander to the... Bear in mind, he might be the largest shareholder. He's still a minority shareholder.
Well, there is a suggestion that there's another 17% block that's under his control, which is held by a different body.
And I think that must be the case. It must be the case. But I think that as bad as things are, and they're pretty bad, right? We're pretty poor. We're amateurishly run, right? I guess there's only one note of caution, and it's just we just want to be careful about the next level of ownership. Now, I'm all for new ownership, fresh ideas, but we've seen enough big clubs around the world get swallowed up by people that really don't that care. Arguably, would care even less than Dermot Desmond about our club and about the legacy and all of that stuff, and would just try and squeeze it for every last pound and cent. Look at Manchester United. Look at the state they've been in for as long as they've been in. So I'm absolutely backing change, but I think it's not change at any cost. You got to be careful about how we make that change. But we definitely need change. We need change in leadership. We need change in the boardroom. We need change in the infrastructure of the club. Comms, obviously. We're still run like a club in the 80s or 90s, and it's 2025. There are amateur clubs around the world that are run better with more forward-looking attitudes than our board have got.
Yeah. I mean, it's all very interesting. Let me just pull up this comment here first, and then we'll talk about it. Peg Leg Lonergan saying, you don't target Desmond. You put pressure on the board. They're the weak link. Well, okay. I saw this interesting article here, which I'll share with you. Very interesting, by James Forrest. For the first time, Celtic small shareholders are asking about Desmond. Now, this is well worth a read. One of the things that was notably absent from the meeting and the questions that were asked and put to the fans was about change of ownership and Dermot Desmond. It's all focused on, the board. But could this whole thing mean an end, perhaps not to Desmond's shareholding, but to his de facto control that we all see? And this article is questioning whether other shareholders could play a role in reshaping the control of Celtic and the vision for it. It says, like, Celtic shareholders have never challenged him on these issues before because nobody cared to. All that has changed. People are taking a hard look at Desmond now. So that could be where this all sort of plays out. You put loads of pressure on the current board and Desmond. And the way it works out is that the other shareholders recognise that the company's not fulfilling its potential. It's been competently run, but without any real vision, without any ambition. And there's some way that Desmond doesn't get squeezed out or whatever, or open the door to some horrific vulture capitalists to come in, or some oil country. But rather just sort of squeezes him slightly to the side and allows the company to modernise and be run as a Champions League club, which we claim to be, world class in everything we do, Tom. Is that one possible outcome that is feasible in any way, do you think?
I think at this moment, any kind of changes we are looking for is I'm not sure where we rooted out from. You know what I mean? We've been on the Dermot Desmond, and it's been a kind of, he's been there all the time, and the activities of the board has been changing. There's a fluctuations. So I feel like there's something else than the Dermot Desmond will be a sort of center of the problem. So it's really important to identify whether the problems laid out. So I think I'm with the fans who are just pointing their fingers on the board members. I think that's the thing that I can just imagine of, the center of any problem occurred. Because we've been all right, kind of 3 to 4 years ago, when you grabbed the Kyogo and the Maidas, all the other different talents around the world. I've been thinking about this club going to turn into some kind of very sustainable the business model for the football club in Scotland. But the thing is, it's eventually going back to the words of we've been there a lot, since like back in the 2012 or something. So it's very disappointing, but I don't think there's any kind of obvious way that we can just fundamentally change the situation right now, because as Paul said, even if you purchase the shares, but the thing is, unless you are another Dermot Desmond, I think you really need a lot of cash in your hands.
Well, Brown Warrior, whose comment is on the screen now, is talking in terms of, reaching out to the massive Celtic fan base and trying to get people to stump up what they would have been spending on a shirt and on Celtic TV, £100 or whatever, and pulling all that cash together to try and make some inroads on the shares. But yeah, I think that should definitely be part of the long-term strategy. But I also think appealing to Desmond in some way. There's been no direct appeal to Desmond. Whenever this all started, when did it start? A long time ago. But the most recent iteration of it, I thought that the open letter was going to be an appeal to Desmond, who's a self-proclaimed Celtic fan. And he says he owns Celtic not for financial reasons. He makes plenty of money from his other businesses. This is his passion project, etc., etc., etc. If that's all really the case, then, it's time to change how this football club is run, and run it as a football club as opposed to a bank, and let Celtic achieve its potential. Do you think that's going to be part of this whole thing, Paul? Is there going to be an open letter to Desmond at some stage?
I think the open letter that went to the board is basically to him. He's a non-executive director, right? It's aimed at him. It's aimed at all the leadership. So, as I say, he can just carry on with his golf and all the rest of it. And is he going to be that bothered? I think there's a really valid points coming through the comments. You've got to hit him where it hurts, which is the pocket. You've got to be loud and visible, and that can be done in a number of ways without too badly hurting the team as well. But you've really got to try and push for modernization of the club structure, and that's pretty much top to bottom in that club. I've known people personally that work inside the club. Everything they do is amateurish. Every employee is a Celtic fan, and that's fine, as it probably should be. But they also take advantage of every employee because they're a Celtic fan. All positions are underpaid because they think people will just be delighted to come and work for the club that they love. And that's from admin roles to football roles to youth coaching roles, to media. It's across the board. The board is cheap and backward and lacking any kind of vision and forethought. And we really need to find a way to get some modern thinking into that management structure. Like the amount of stories that came out over this window, and we've heard previous windows, that deals fell over just because nobody could get Michael Nicholson on the phone, is ludicrous. Like, why are you not answering your phone during the transfer window? But comms in total has been horrific for years, either non-existent or terrible when it does come out. Saturday statement, absolute example of that. We're like I said, we're run like an amateur football club, and we're the biggest club in the country and one of the biggest clubs in Europe, in theory. We've certainly got one of the biggest balance sheets in Europe because most clubs spend their money. It's just really, really poor in terms of the structure. So we need to get the football department fixed. We need to get the communications department fixed, and we need to start using the funds we've got in a. We're probably I reckon we've probably paid more in corporation tax this year than we've probably paid outright in transfer fees in this window. And if that's the case, that's just mental. Like, most big companies don't sit on 80, 90, 100 million quid of cash because they get taxed on it. They find a use for it that's more tax appropriate. So yeah, like top to bottom, the whole club needs modernized, and we've got to find a way to do that.
Well, we do. I mean, there's lots of things that need to change, but nothing is going to change unless there's a change of direction coming from someone in a position of power. And these demands that people that are made in this, or were voted upon in yesterday's meeting, you know, it's only if you've got Desmond on side that any of these things are going to happen. Right? I mean, how else are you going to get rid of the board? Unless Desmond and or a bunch of other shareholders speak up.
But the point is the board are effectively puppets of Dermot Desmond. If every major decision needs to be run past him,
that also includes their removal. You know, without question. So yeah, I'm expecting some sort of emotional plea to Desmond to happen at some stage. You know, I really am. All right, well, we're up to 40 minutes. Should we turn our attention to the game? Is that enough talking about the sort of backdrop? Or is there any other points you want to make, Tom, from a Korean point of view?
Korean point of view? I think like
Yes.
people started talking about the transfer of the Oh Hyun-gyu down here because like people questioning how the Celtic medicals let him in while the Stuttgart they say no to his knee because he doesn't have any kind of kneecaps in. So I don't know. So if anything wrong, it seems like the message is saying that everything with the Celtic, the structurally is not really functioning right now. So we'll see. You know.
Mm-hmm. It'll be very interesting to see what comes out of this, what sort of concrete steps there are, and where we can go. But yeah, it has to start somewhere, so it's probably going to start at Kilmarnock with some sort of expression of unhappiness in terms of a late walk-in. Let me just have a look at what images we've got here. Yeah, these are the fixtures, Paul, for the weekend. We're playing on the Sunday, obviously. Before that, there's the small matter of Rangers versus Hearts. So as we turn our attention back to the football, that's the good news. There we are atop the table. And lots of mid-table teams there sitting nestled in mid-table, which is always good to see. The narrative could flip completely this weekend in terms of our sort of happiness with on-the-field stuff, couldn't it? Are you expecting it to, Paul?
I'm expecting us to go to Kilmarnock and get a result, but I don't think that's going to change the narrative particularly. Even if we get a decent result, and Kilmarnock have done okay, they're unbeaten, 4 draws, 4 games, 4 draws. Hibs, I think Hibs, Motherwell, Dundee, and maybe Livingston. I think that's the 4 that they've played. It's always a bit of an issue on that pitch. I'm expecting to see some changes in the team, given it's post-international week and the terrible surface. But I would expect us still to win. How comfortable that is another story. But this stuff isn't going to go away, and neither should it. So I think that was still going to be the major talking point post-match. I think the only way that the fan action isn't the major talking point post-match is if we drop points, which, you know, is a possibility, but hopefully not going to be the case. I think we should have enough in our locker to get past Killie. But the form has been poor. Like
very poor.
The last 3 games we've been shocking. So so we need a response. And yeah, I'm hopeful we'll see one. But I'm not as kind of bullish and confident as I typically would be. It's going to be an interesting game. Obviously, we'll know by then whether we're playing catch up to Tony Bloom's Hearts, as I think they're formally called these days, or whether it's you know, a bit of a lifting performance from the other side of the city. Either way, I don't really care too much about that result. You know, it's a game where you want both teams to lose, and preferably something terrible to happen to both teams. But yeah, that'll play out, and then we'll get on with it. Our own game. But yeah, I'm not super. I'll be honest, I'm not super confident. But it's Kilmarnock, right? So the level. It's a level we should be capable of beating, and I'll be more confident if I see quite a few changes in the starting lineup than we've seen in the previous 3 matches.
Yeah. Now, in a way, this whole backdrop, Tam, is could be viewed as something of a gift to the PR machine, because the fans are very much united against the board and the way the club's being run and blah blah blah, and there's a lot of sympathy for Brendan Rodgers not getting the players in the transfer window and all that, and people saying, oh, I wouldn't blame him if he walked away, if he left, quit. He's probably not going to. We can talk about that in a second, what we expect from his press conference tomorrow. But yeah, he needs to do something. For my money, he needs to start, getting his team to play football. Where do you stand on the Rodgers situation at the moment?
I think, especially a game like it against the Rangers one, I think it's a half of the result still like Rodgers' fault, to be honest. Like I understand what kind of difficulties he's going to get, but the thing is, he's a professional, so he need to just try to show his devotion on the footballing side to let him his team to win. But as I said, it's his second tenure, and during his first tenure, and this time what we've been seeing is every single time the Brendan Rodgers is out of focus, he's not really functioning at all. Like you can see that the teams are not really functioning well. That's what I've seen in the game against Rangers. Sorry that I didn't watch the Champions League game, but I think is I see there wouldn't be no differences at all. The game against Amate, so I think it's not only the board's fault. I think it's the Brendan Rodgers. He's the one who needs to focus on the game, and he couldn't make any kind of changes because there's a tons of teams in the Scottish League who got a weaker squad than him, but they're showing still some strong performances. So I think it's Brendan Rodgers is also my target list, and the same to my colleague. I mean, the guy who's running the Twitter of the Soul CSC, the Mark. he's the always against the Brendan Rodgers when the Brendan Rodgers is not functioning at all. But the background of it, always like we know he has ability, but it doesn't seem like he doesn't care.
What do you think of that, Paul?
Oh yeah, like his press conference will be interesting. I guess tomorrow, because there's been some mudslung clearly from insiders at the board or the club that have been leaking to the Sun of all places. Like it's just another example of like terrible behavior from inside the club. So I'd like to see him come out with a bit of fire in the press conference tomorrow, and then set a team out that shows a bit more ambition than we've seen in the previous 3 matches. I think we've got to see changes in lineup. Some players have been away on international duty and traveling a lot. We haven't really touched on Daisamaya at all, but obviously during the window that it's been leaked, or he's spoken to local press and basically said that he was due to go. The fan stuff has sort of superseded that, but that between that and the long travel for him and the fact he never usually comes back from international breaks, in great form or firing, I'd sit him out of this match. I'd give Shinamada a crack through the middle. I'd like to see Donovan start. I think you'd see CCV out on that pitch as well. So there's an opportunity for Dane Murray potentially to start. And he's looked good when he's played. And yeah, there's plenty of midfield options that you could freshen up because it's become pretty stale pretty quick. I think there's a comment there about 4-2-3-1 from Brown Warrior. I'd love to see that employed. I think we've got better squad variety for that kind of for that kind of formation. And it would just show that he's thinking about things slightly differently. But I definitely think we need to freshen up a personnel. And I think he's got to come out all guns blazing in the press conference and then feed that through to the team for Sunday and get a reaction and see some intensity and passion early on. And if you can get that, then we could build momentum and push on and get a really good result.
Okay, so the press conference, Tam, I want you to put yourself in Brendan's very expensive Tom Ford shoes for a moment and tell us what's he going to say in response to all these press questions about what's going on at the club.
Sorry, I lost you. Sorry, I just got a bit of connections.
Okay, what's Brendan going to say when he's asked tomorrow? How are you going to manage during all this turmoil? What's going on at Celtic? The fans' revolution.
To be fair to say, like I expect him going to be saying like any just very normal comment, like that he's saying he's just disappointed, like he understands the fans, and then he's just going to say like, okay, but we're going to focus on the game, we just to show our improvement. So I think he's just going to be on the fans' side at the same time, because he understands that most of the fans understand him, and what's kind of we both are frustrated about the transfers. So I think it's more focused on the side, but it's still, I feel for me like he need to actually show something on the pitch with the alternative he got on the team sheet. So yeah.
The one thing he's not going to say is that, Robert, I suggest. I mean, let's be honest, he's going to say he knows what's going on. He's not stupid. He was disappointed in the window for sure. But there were lots of reasons for that. But he understands the fans' frustration. Ultimately, Paul, what's he thinking in his own head? He's thinking, I'm off this summer. I just want to have as good a season as possible. I don't want to damage the Rodgers brand too much between now and the end of the season. I want to hopefully win the league, maybe get a treble, because I haven't had a treble since I've been back this time, unlike my predecessor and others before, including himself. But he'll also want to do well in Europe, because, that's a good platform for him to show his wee face, walking about the sidelines. I don't know, I've answered my own question here, but is that what's going on in Brendan's head for the remainder of the season?
I think so. Like I can't see. I don't think many Celtic fans can see a position how the board present him with a contract and he decides to sign it. I just do not think that's likely to happen. In a lot of ways, this is death by 1,000 cuts. We pretty much know that everyone knows that he's going to go. So what you would, given that's the case, what you would be hoping a nice, modern, forward-thinking board would be doing is speaking to lots of candidates and pulling together a short list and have somebody pretty much lined up for the minute it's announced that he's not signing another contract, and then paraded a day, 48 hours later. Do we think that'll happen? Almost no chance. But that's what we should be doing. But yeah, he's not going to want to damage brand Brendan. I can't see any way where he doesn't see the season out. If he's willing to stick around after what's just happened, he will see the season out. Obviously, he made that commitment at the beginning. I think a lot of fans would say that he's been so badly treated in this window that he would be within his rights to walk away, but he won't, obviously, because he said he wouldn't. And I can't see the board getting rid of him early because they'd have to pay him out, and they're too cheap for that. So yeah, we're stuck in this sort of long drawn out separation that's coming, which will end in divorce. But yeah, ultimately he can't change that squad now till January. He's actually got to show up some of the coaching that he showed in his first phase. We were talking about this in group chat. I can't remember if it was all of the guys here or not, or a different chat, but I was sort of saying, how many players did he actually improve during this spell? And difficult to argue for more than one or two. Whereas in first spell, there was a ton of players that we thought had come to the end of their cycle or had hit a ceiling and then he pushed them on to another level and got more out of them. I think we've seen less of that this time round, but he's really got to get into the day-to-day coaching and man management and get more out of the squad than he's currently been getting out of. I 100% believe he's been stiffed, and there's no argument on that from me, but he should have been getting more out of the squad that he's got in the last 3 matches, and he's got to find a way to turn that around, and get the squad back playing a faster, higher tempo, more aggressive style of football. And if he does that, we'll see a better impact on the pitch. And if we see that, we'll all be a lot happier. Obviously, the board stuff will continue on, but ultimately, in the interim, we want to be seeing a football team that's playing good football and winning matches.
Definitely. And what about Maeda then, Tam? Are you expecting him to be the consummate professional, work his socks off, maybe run into a better run of form? Or is he going to be Maeda of old, not last season, prior to that, skying crosses, missing chances, and possibly causing the fans to turn against him and say he's not trying, he's checked out?
I think I wouldn't be pretend myself like I'm a kind of Japanese expert, but for my expectations, it's like he's gonna be like doing his job. I think that's one of the things like Japanese players really good at. Though I think it wouldn't be he's going to be perfect 100% into the game, because obviously his mentality would be affected by the kind of what's happened, what the transfer window, and I think it's but he must be a good professional. I think he's been very good at like a lot of big games and a lot of disturbances. So I think he's going to be focused on the game. But the thing is, maybe at some point you're going to see if we don't show any kind of a glimpse of hope to him for a kind of next transfer window, he's going to have a chance, because I've read a lot of articles about the Japanese football players. They actually, what their mentality is, they don't mind the kind of all the money they're going to get. Such as if you play for any J League team, you're going to get more money than you play for the teams like Hearts or even St. Mirren. So they're not obviously not in for the money. They all about like their experiences and the career. So I think it's Daisen Maeda. He really needs some sort of move to somewhere else to have a new challenge in his life. So as long as we're going to just try to persuade him, like he's going to get more chances with this season, the club's going to be backed in it, then he's going to pour his 100% on it. I think he's going to be all right for now. But the thing is, it's all what the question, how long he's going to be last.
Really interesting, the range of comments on Maeda, isn't it, Paul? You see all these ones coming through.
Yeah, I've seen them all. I think I'm much more on the side of he will continue to knuckle. Like I think he's been treated badly. Like there's obviously been an agreement or arrangement that he would be allowed to go. We've, in amateur style, like I've said all along, have failed to be able to find a replacement for him, and so he's stuck. Not okay. He signed the contract, of course he did, but if we've made a discussion or agreement that he could leave this window, this is like we're going back around circles, but this is a perennial problem at Celtic. We should have replacements in the window before the key player is leaving. Daisen Maeda's replacement should have been in January, if not last year, building up in the background, ready to take his spot. Same with every key player. Instead, we've got Kyogo going, we've got Kuhn going, we've got Adamida going, and whatever you think of those players, we've not replaced them. We've not even replaced them with somebody worse. We've just not replaced them at all. So it's just another example of this board completely lacking in preparation. So yeah, Maeda's been treated badly. Do I think he'll down tools? Absolutely not. I think that kind of Japanese mentality of pride and doing the right thing will kick in. I don't think he'll necessarily play this weekend, or if he does, I don't think he should be playing full part, because he'll be absolutely knackered from that long haul trip again. But he's been flogged, right? People said, oh, he's had a poor start to the season. He's probably knackered. He carried that team for 6 months last year on his own, pretty much. So we've flogged him like we flogged other players in the past. I don't necessarily think he is. I just think he's I think he will come good, but I would expect that he will be on his way come January, and we need a hell of a lot of work done pre-January to get not just his replacement in, but a bunch of other replacements in. He will, now that he knows he's staying, he will be playing at his best, or he'll be giving his all. Whether it turns out looks like his best or not, we'll see. But I've no doubt that he will make an impact between now and January. I do agree with Strange Love the Doctor's point. I wouldn't be surprised to see Ange come and try and get him for Forest, because it would be a good pickup for him.
Would be a good pickup for him, and we've picked up 140 current viewers. That's pretty healthy. We're getting lots of good numbers these days. Here's a quick message from some of our international fan base to you, if you're watching, and if it says subscribe down below, which means you haven't subscribed yet, even those who thought they had. So don't take it from me, take it from one of our French viewers.
Hello all the Celtic fans. Here in France we love the Celtic world. C'est fantastique. Subscribe. C'est un fait accompli.
So there you go. C'est un fait accompli, Tom. What do you think about that? All right. So, yeah, the chat here has been really excellent. Some great points coming in, especially this one from Ian Roy. Paul talking about Japanese pride. A load of old bollocks. That's my favourite comment of the night. Kyogo down tools, as did Hatate. Dyson looks like he's at it as well. I mean, apart from... Sorry about that, didn't mean to put that in. Apart from suggesting that Paul ever talks a load of old bollocks, there's maybe some justification for that. Wouldn't you say? No?
We'll agree to disagree on that one. Players form can go up and down without... Players' form can go up and down without players down in tools.
See, Maestro knows what to do to get a comment on screen. It's a pretty simple formula. Best Celtic pod, Gav is the man. Yay. All right. Well, look, lads, it's been great to have you. Tom, it's great to have you back again. It's been too long. You mustn't disappear for so long. I know you're a very busy man, but it's always good to get your point of view.
Definitely. I just try to put give you more comments from the other side of the world, and then it's just Korean Celts been here for a long time, so wanted just to hear their voices, and then try to let you guys know.
Good man. Monty saying Paul can gibber pish at times, unlike me, and get a grip. Paul, you're allowed your opinion, son. So there you go. Very true. 420 asking for a song. This is not the time for a song. There's too much tension in the air for me to try and alleviate it.
The tension could be dissipated with a silly song, Gav. I think that's what we made our name on. And as the numbers grow, you seem reluctant to bring the silly songs out. I think it's probably...
I'll tell you the truth.
Light relief.
I worked on some songs over the close season, and I managed to pick the worst possible things to sing about, right? One was, well, I didn't actually record it, but Adamida, I did a song for him to the tune of... Hall & Oates, Brendan Rodgers' favourite band. Oh, here he comes, he's a damn eater. As opposed to man eater, which would have been quite good. Hold on, who are the other ones? Yang, I was going to do Yang to the Pretenders, Back on the Chain Gang for Back on the Yang Gang. That's not a good idea to sing a song about Yang. I did Your Boyfriend, Paul. What's his name? Arnie Engels, yes. What was that? Oh, I've still got that one, but I haven't been able to play it yet, but that's quite good. What else? I did a song about being a Celtic fan in the 20th century and how I made 21st century Celtic fan and how it's just trophy after trophy, but in the current climate, that is not a good idea either. So, unless Negrin or Balikwisha or one of these new signings just starts hitting the ground running and everyone's singing their praises, then I can't imagine I'm going to be releasing any new tracks just now.
The comments are lit when you mention some songs. Like the people want the people. Well, not all the people want it, but it sounds like some people want it.
Well, it's going to going to have to wait until the general mood improves and there's a subject that is appropriate. I mean, if Arnie Engel scores a hat-trick against Killy, I will play, I guarantee, a new song on Monday. How's that? Can't say fairer than that.
I think
Highly
I'll be
unlikely, though.
I think I'll be staying in the vault for a little bit longer. Unless we get
All
3
right.
penalties.
Thank you very much, everybody in the chat. I don't do silly songs, says Will McMillan. That's right, only pure quality. But it's been great to have you. The comments have been on fire, in fact, today. You have to say. They've been absolutely brilliant. Open the vault. Open the vault, says 420. Yeah, all right, everyone. Thanks very much. We'll be back on Monday. There may well be a watch-along, drink-along on Sunday. Sunday night, 10 o'clock. Not a great time to be drinking, but it might happen. I'll put it out to the group, and we'll see who's up for it.
And we've got the headline show and then the tactical review both on Monday as well.
That's right. So plenty coming at you. Oh, do we want to talk? I don't suppose we want to mention Charlie Kirk on the way out. Have you seen that footage today?
I don't really want to comment on that at all.
It's unbelievable. This is the most American thing ever. A guy in a T-shirt saying freedom, talking about gun violence, and the last word he says is violence, and then he's shot in the neck, and he's dead. And on that rather depressing note, we leave it there, and we'll see you on Monday. Hail, hail, everyone. Cheerio.
Hail, hail.